introducing the other faculty members, and then we start over the session. Over to you, Dr. Shiva.
Yeah, so thank you so much for kind words indeed. And I would like to introduce a great panel that we have for the day. We're lucky to have amongst us Dr. Deepak Puri. Dr. Deepak Puri is Director of CTS Department at Max Hospital, Mohali. His vast experience of more than 5,000 CTK surgeries in high-risk patients. Besides having a number of publications from national as well as international journals. He's got so many awards like Outstanding Scientist Award of the 21st Century, International Health Professional of the Year, and so on. With an amazing teaching experience, he's also a member of several forums like Society of Heart and Indian Association of CTUS. So it is great to Deepak Puri. My question goes to Dr. Deepak Puri. Is he around? This is regarding heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. Patients who have been revascularized, who have undergone CABGs, or maybe even stenting. Is it important to give them guideline-directed medical therapy?
Good evening, and I'm very happy to be here among you today. I am very much in favor of guideline directed medical therapy, and I was one of the persons who started the comprehensive management issue in 2011. Because during my course of surgery in my practice, I saw that a lot of patients they require the support of nephrologist as well as a cardiologist after surgery, because once we revascularize the patient's flow to the that part of the muscle which has been affected is restored, but the function doesn't become best at that moment, because initially the muscle becomes stunned, and after that there's some part of the muscle which may be hibernating. So initially it may even worsen, and there are a lot of issues like arrhythmias. So we have to take care of all those things, and initially we require some inotropic support. We need to ventilate the patient, and after that we need to gradually start the oral medication, and then we have to optimize the medical management. So all that requires a lot of precision, because if we don't start it from the very beginning, I think we have to optimize even before we take up the patient for surgery. And after surgery, at every moment, we have to optimize the treatment. Otherwise, the patients with low ejection fraction, they have adverse events, and sometimes the mortality may also occur. And like the lower the ejection fraction, more the chances of mortality. So we have to take care of that. And also the ejection fraction is also a very strong predictor of readmissions. Like if we talk of all these figures which were seen around 10 years back, we used to have a number of patients who used to come back to us after discharge from the hospital within the 1 month, or maybe in the next few months. And some patients, they used to have a uneventful surgery, and then when they were discharged, they went home and they had a sudden death because of some ventricular arrhythmias. So we have to optimize the medical management according to the guidelines. So if we don't do that, then the outcome, the short term outcome as well as the long term outcome is bad. And various studies, like they have shown that there was a very low percentage of these guideline directed medical treatment, because this study is showing that only 6% they were following this on admission and 11% on discharge. So if we don't follow these guideline directed medical therapy, then it is going to affect our short term as well as long term outcome. And because of the progression of atherosclerosis, if we revascularize the patient, doesn't mean that you have treated the disease and you have cured the disease, because this disease is going to progress in due course of time. So we have to first of all take care of the patient initially during the period in which there is the stunning of the myocardium, and after that, once the heart is recovering, which may take up to 3 months for the hibernating myocardium to recover, or 3 to 12 months for the entire stunned and myocardium to entirely recover. And during that period we have to take care of the patient, and beyond that we have to take care of the progression in the atherosclerosis, that is the secondary prevention, to prevent recurrence of events. So, the people who underestimate this importance of the guideline directed medical therapy, they are bound to face problems once they operate the patient and in the long term follow up. So, we should not think that medical therapy and surgery, they are competitors. So actually we are not competitors, we are complementary to each other. And I floated a group called Cardiomergen, and in that group we started promoting comprehensive management in a integrated manner, in which we promoted teamwork. The heart team, it utilizes all the specialties, and whenever there is a need for the help of any other specialist, we sit together and we decide what protocol we should follow, and we have written guidelines. And apart from written guidelines, we also keep on changing the guidelines from time to time, and from our own data we analyze the data, and then we, according to the guidelines that are already existing, we keep on modifying those guidelines according to our own setup and the Indian population also. So therefore, because of all this, the long-term outcome also has been much better, and it has been seen that once we follow these guidelines, there is a 36% reduction in death. So I would rather say that in my practice, we have seen even much better figures. In the last 10 years, we have seen up to 50% reduction in mortality, what it used to be around 10 years back. And also, apart from that, the adverse event rate is also drastically lowered because of proper guideline directed medical therapy.
So indeed, Dr. Puri, that was a great insight to know about your practice, and it's indeed great to hear about medical therapy from a surgeon. So,
Thank you so much.
and it stresses on how important it is to have medicines right in place and optimize their medical therapy. But what is the effect of this drug, sacubitril valsartan, in patients with heart failure with reduced ejection fractions once they have been revascularized, once they've undergone their CABGs and angioplasties?
Actually, initially when we started using this drug, that was about 5 years ago. At that time, we were searching for literature for any evidence related to cardiac surgery, but we couldn't find much relevance. So then I thought that why not we ourselves initiate the process, and initially we started using this drug for those patients who had ejection fraction less than 30% or maybe even less than 20%. So I've been operating many patients who have ejection fraction as low as 15%. And over the period of time, then we accumulated our own data. And by that time, even the ACC and AHA guideline, they have been recommending this drug for use in patient undergoing revascularization. So I found very good results, and many patients whom I operated who had an initial ejection fraction of 15%. After 3 months, we did the echo, and we found that there was a drastic improvement, and sometimes even they reached 35 to 40%. And after 1 year, few of my patients, they even had an ejection fraction of 55 to 60%. Now that was partially due to the fact that at the time of surgery, they had acute event, and we did the surgery within the window period, and most of the myocardium was hibernating. So in the due course of 12 to 14 months, then most of the myocardium, it recovered. And when initially during the process the myocardium was recovering, we found Vimada to be a very useful drug. And another group of patients, like we see patients who initially they recover well, but after some time they become like careless, and they are not very regular in follow-ups, and they not even taking drugs regularly. So they'll end up with complication maybe 5 to 8 years after surgery, or maybe 10 years after surgery, and suddenly one day we find them in the emergency, and they are the people who will end up again with a very low ejection fraction. And this was another group of patients whom we initiated Vimada, and we found that they stabilized and their ejection fractions also started improving. So we can say that they are very favorable results of Vimada in patients after revascularization, and the hospital readmission rate is almost negligible. Like I have to literally think heart failure is not a problem that I face too often now, because even most of my patients that I operate, they are ejection fraction below 30%, and all of they go home and they are doing well. Only thing is that I'm very strict in the follow up, and I make sure that they follow not only the guideline directed medical therapy, and Vimada has a very important role in this during this management. And we also found that the cumulative number of hospitalization is also very low. In the last 5 years, I think there has been a tremendous improvement. So if we compare the improvement in the ejection fraction, like here these graphs show that the ejection fraction after initiating Vimada was seen to be to the tune of around 5% increase. But I'm telling you frankly that I have seen overviewed my results of last more than 15 years, and I can vouch for it that most of the patients, they if they are operated in time, and we do most of the surgeries, we do almost all surgeries one beating heart, and these patients they have a improved ejection fraction to the tune of 10.5% or 11% within the next 1 year. So that is a tremendous improvement over the last decade. And also the mortality is almost half, like over the projected mortality of say 3 to 4%. So now if we talk about the patients who had a low ejection fraction, most of the patients they go event free, and we have a mortality of less than 2% in high risk patients with low ejection fraction, and for a normal risk patient it is almost to the tune of 0.5%. So there has been tremendous improvement because of surgery, plus we add the guideline directed medical therapy right from initial stage. When we admit the patient, from there onwards we are very particular about very precise guideline directed medical therapy. Sometime we then gradually wean off the diuretic, and the dose requirement of diuretic also drastically reduces in due course of time.
Yeah. Totally agree. In fact, I was about to discuss with you this issue because we've seen that surgeons have a tendency to use hypocyclics, especially in the early parts when they are getting discharged. So even in our routine practice, we are halving the dose of our diuretics actually when this drug is either initiated or when we step up on the dose. And once we reduce the dose of diuretic, that also helps us to prevent the episodes of postural hypotension and yeah, obviously yes, the renal failure. I think that point is